What does it mean to protect freedom? Well, for some, it means defending our rights. For others, it means dedicating a lifetime to serving others. Less than 2% of America's sheriffs are women. My guest today is one of them.
In life, you go through it and you take steps, you open doors, some expected, some unexpected, and they lead you to exactly where you need it to be. This is a position that could go wrong if the wrong person is in it.
How many people did you have to defeat?
I know. There were 17 candidates at one point. The day I decided to run, I told myself, you have to win. There's no other choice.
What does it mean to protect freedom? Well, for some, it means defending our rights. For others, it means dedicating a lifetime to serving others. Less than 2% of America's sheriffs are women. Yet across the country, trailblazing women are breaking barriers in law enforcement and public service. My guest today is one of them. On January 7th, 2025, Rosie Cordero-Stutz made history by becoming the first sheriff of Miami-Dade County since 1966. It's a long time. The first woman ever elected to the office and the first Hispanic woman sheriff in Florida history. We are so lucky to have her. But behind the badge is a Dominican immigrant, a wife, a mother, and a woman who has spent more than 30 years protecting the community she now calls home. Today, we talk about leadership, public service, family, and what it truly means to protect the freedoms that allow our communities to thrive. Sheriff Rosie Cordero-Stutz, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Your trajectory has been very impressive. You come from the Dominican Republic.
I do.
Tell me a little bit about your country.
Sure. So first, I moved to the United States when I was 2 months old. So my childhood memories are mostly growing up in New York City. However, I was very blessed. My mom would pack us up, me and my sister, every summer and send us to the Dominican Republic. So I have a lot of fond memories of growing up in my grandmother's house and staying up and after dark when I wasn't supposed to.
Right.
Yeah. Running in the rain. A real innocent childhood. I have to tell you, my experience was amazing. And I really learned to love the feeling of the culture of the Dominican Republic y su gente, y su música. Like everything about the Dominican Republic is happy. But most of the people, back then, I don't remember, we didn't have a lot, but the happiness was there.
How did going to Dominican Republic, spending time with the abuela, how did that shape you as you grew up?
Yeah, I think for me, so my parents divorced when I was young. I was very blessed to have my dad in my life, a very active part. But at the day-to-day life was me, my mom, and my sister, right? So I really saw the hard work and dedication that my mom put in. And then, summers were because if we were not in school, we were going to get in trouble, right? So she was shipping us off to the Dominican Republic for, to keep us busy. And then I got to spend time with my grandma who raised, 13 children. And somehow she was an amazingly strong and warm and attentive and present human being. So I think that it just showed me the strength of what a woman could do.
We have to talk about Latina moms, right? Because they are something else. We are completely different in the way we raise our children. Don't mess with Latina moms, right? Isn't that a little bit of the experience that you had?
Absolutely. And, I really learned service from them. I have to say that. Like, I think back, my grandma, she did not only take care of us. So think, if you had 13 children, 10 to 13, and I say that because some were adopted into the family, right?
Sure.
Then the kids, the grandchildren for her, right? We all went in the summers. So there was 8 to 10 kids at any given time.
They were all her children.
Exactly. And so she really just, she fed everyone and she took care of us and she put us to work every day. Like, get up, go clean the chicken, the coop got to be cleaned out. And so it was a great, great childhood.
That's what I always say when I'm with my daughter's friends, because they tend to pile on. And somebody asked me, are they all yours? It's like, when they're with me, they're all mine, and you tend to be very, very protective about that. But you moved to New York City. What was that like? New York is tough, huh?
Yeah, especially when I grew up there. So I grew up in the 80s and it was a tough part of town. But I also think that also helped build my character. I was always a true believer in do the right thing, right? That's what my mom taught us. Stay out of trouble as long as you could, but you also had to defend yourself. You had to stand up for yourself. So I think that that was another key piece I learned growing up in New York City.
What would you say just to women in general about self-defense and how to stand up for yourself?
I think it's a very, very important part. And I think that, I mean, for me, physical safety is important, right? That's just who, it's obviously part of my character,
Right.
who I am. And I think that there are women who don't feel comfortable in that space. And I would argue that give yourself some skills in that area. And what you will find is that flows over into other parts of your life as well. When you feel that you can take care of yourself, then you come into a room a little bit differently.
Did you ever imagine that one day you would become the first woman and the first Hispanic sheriff in Florida history?
Never. Never. In fact, I would tell you that even as short as 1 year before I decided to run, an elected office was never something that was on my radar. But for me, I think, I was at a good space in my life where I knew that if we limit ourselves to what we want to do, then that puts up walls that are not necessary. So I encountered a space where I thought to myself, okay, what are you going to do? Are you just going to sit back and let someone else come into this position of sheriff? Right. Because you mentioned that there hadn't been an elected sheriff since 1966, correct?
That's right.
Let me give you a little bit of background there. In 1966, a sheriff of Miami-Dade County, then Dade County, was arrested for fraud and corruption because it had gone bad, right? And so they changed the system because they didn't want that to happen. So now fast forward 66 years later, what that told me, right? I've already been serving this community for 28 years at that time, 30 plus now. This is a position that could go wrong if the wrong person is in it. And that's why I said to myself, so what are you going to do?
Right.
Are you going to sit back and let someone else step into this role? Or do you take what you believe is the right thing in serving this community and keep it moving forward?
And that really is great advice, kind of stepping out of your comfort zone, right?
Absolutely. Big comfort zone for me, by the way, a leap of faith. But it was the right decision for me.
And sometimes women and sometimes Latinos in general just feel that, I'm going to let somebody else do it. That's too complicated. I'm not going to do that. Yeah. But the truth is that we have helped shape a nation.
Absolutely.
Especially here, Miami-Dade, right? Miami-Dade County.
100%. I mean, you throw out some really big names that come from South Florida, like Marco Rubio.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. Jeanette Nunez, who was a lieutenant governor for the state of Florida.
Yes.
Marilyn Bugliera, who is the current president of Miami-Dade College, who I believe is one of the biggest public colledges.
Yes,
just
it
by
is.
the way. Yes,
it is.
I mean that's amazing names, and that's just today. There's a history. We didn't all just get here. I think people paved the road ahead of us, right? And so I hope to be one of those people who paved the road for future generations.
You already are a trailblazer. just getting elected, and we'll get into that because that was also quite interesting. What do you think inspired you to dedicate your life to service in law enforcement?
I think my mom's story. I shared a little bit already. She fought really hard. She worked really hard. She came to this country. She was the first of her siblings, right, to come to the United States, and she sponsored and worked to getting all of her brothers and sisters to come to the United States. And now I can tell you that our family, we have a footprint across this entire country. I have cousins all over. She worked really hard, and she instilled in us, hard work, honesty, and God, right? So I had to help her, because she barely spoke the language. And so, obviously, as a little kid, I would translate for her. And even the neighbors would come over, right, with a letter. Like, léeme esta carta que no la entiendo. Sí. So, and we did that for each other. And so, for me, it was a natural feeling. Helping others made me feel good. And so, that evolved into law enforcement.
So when we talked about that there hadn't been a sheriff since 1966, do you think Miami-Dade County now is ready for a new sheriff?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. They're ready. And I know I'm the right one for them because I've been here. I've seen what we've gone through for the past, 30 years. And we have had a pretty impactful, evolution. Think about it. If you know anything about Miami-Dade, back in the 80s, we had riots, right? Mm-hmm. We had race riots in the 80s. We had law enforcement issues, where a a police officer was arrested for his abuse of power, the Lozano, you remember the Lozano case?
Yes.
That all helped form the history of law enforcement in Miami-Dade County. And I'll tell you that we learned a lot of good lessons that taught us to work with our community, that taught us to listen to our community, that taught us that in law enforcement, you don't do this alone. If you're not listening to what your community's needs are, then you will go down a bad path. And fast forward, I will tell you that those lessons really have helped us in the, current state of affairs.
Yeah, I was definitely going to ask that, because after 30 years, of course, you've seen so much, you've learned so much, and that has prepared you for this moment.
Yes, exactly. And sometimes that, when I talk to people like this, because, you don't normally have these kind of conversations every day, but you tell
we
me
need
like
a cafecito.
My life. I know, yeah, you're right. In life, you go through it and you take steps, you open doors, right? Unexpected doors, some expected, some unexpected, and they lead you to exactly where you needed to be.
Yes.
And that's what happened to me.
Yes, indeed. What were you thinking that day that you won? It's just incredible. It was, how many people did you have to defeat?
I know. There were 17 candidates at one point in the race. It is a partisan race. So,
yes.
On the Republican side, there were 11 of us, and the rest were on the Democratic side. And then obviously, so we had this huge events everywhere we'd go to. Like if we had a panel conversation, it would be 15 people on the stage.
Yes.
It was really a lot. And but I will say this to you. The day I decided to run, I told myself, you have to win. There's no other choice. And that is how I approached every single day. I felt that I was the most qualified person for the job. The fact that I had never been a politician or had never run for an elected office in my life, that was the hardest part for me of that entire process. But I listened to really good people who helped me through that process. And I think I got my message to the community about why I wanted to be sheriff.
And the sheriff is not going to mention it, but I will. She defeated over a dozen of men that were also candidates. And so it says a lot. It's not about being, female or male. It's just about being the most qualified. Yeah. And you weren't really seeking limelight. You were seeking service.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think that had a lot, that I was able to portray that and that message to the community in my campaign. Yeah. I'm proud of that.
What was the biggest challenge in leading the transition to the new Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office?
Just one? No. A lot more than just one. But
we only have about 30 minutes.
Okay, fair enough. So I'll just touch base on the surface. Number one is a culture change.
Okay.
Yep. So the sheriff's office is an elected. I'm the highest ranking law enforcement person in this county, right? I serve this entire county, every resident, regardless of where you live, right? Whether you live in a municipality or in an unincorporated. And I am the defender of your constitutional rights. And a lot of people in this county don't even understand what that means, right? So people always say, well, who do you work for? You work for the governor. I don't work for the governor, right? We each have our role to play. I work for the citizens who elected me. That's who I work for. And I think that that's a very different responsibility than previously. Than even a police department, for example. That's a wonderful system, but it is very different. And now I've taken almost 5,000 employees, because we're the largest sheriff's office in the southeastern United States. We have 3,200 sworn deputies.
Wow.
I have to get them to understand that shift.
Yes.
In their process. And so, and we're working on it every single day.
How are you doing that? Because it's a massive undertaking, it sounds like.
It is. So let's not even talk about the fact that we had to change everything in the agency. Like even we had to open bank accounts.
Yes.
We had to change
the
every
administrative
piece of stationery. Yes,
of
absolutely. Process. We had to create a lot of the process that we used to depend on other departments for. So it's a massive undertaking. I take it one day at a time. I take it one day at a time. I have goals. I have priorities. And I delegate and follow up a lot. But, at the end of the day, I still wish I could do it faster than I can, just because there are only 24 hours in the day. But yeah, it's a lot. And, I have one goal in that. My goal is that I establish an office of the sheriff, one that stands on professionalism, integrity, respect, accountability, service to this community, and that becomes a foundation that will exist for decades after I'm gone.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a very important goal to have. So when we talk about the principles that protect our country, we just turned 250.
Yes.
And so at Libre, we're really promoting the principles of freedom because we believe that Latinos are the next guard, the next cavalry, right? To really protect those freedoms. We are the future. And one of them is rule of law.
Yes.
And you fall beautifully into that.
Thank you.
Tell me how important that is.
No, it's extremely. I cannot tell you. And thank you for even saying those words, because there are few people, I think, who think that way or acknowledge that we as Latinos, we have such an amazing impact on this country. And we have to step into that role. Okay. If we don't step into that role, somebody else will. And we come from a very different position than many others who helped found this country, which is most of us come from countries where we know how difficult it is when government and rule of law are not applied appropriately. So for me, my message, and I try to creep it in, especially when I speak to kids and, is about being a good citizen. Can we start with being good citizens of this country? We're blessed to be, I'm blessed to be here because my parents made a decision, right? But at some point, I have to pay that forward. And I think we can all start with being a good citizen. What does that mean? It means, right, what does that mean?
What does that mean? What can parents do?
What can parents do, right? Yep. Is have a conversation at the dinner table about the importance of rule of law, about the importance of our rights to vote, the ability to vote. Talk about that. It wasn't that long ago that women couldn't vote.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right? Because we don't, yes, it's wonderful in the civics class. It's very different when you're in a table with your family and you hear your grandma or your aunt or your mom even talk about how hard it was, to be able to gain these rights. Now, here in this country, we make it so good, right? Almost too good. You have early voting. Yeah. You get a paper. Where do you go to vote? There's countries in this world today where people are not allowed to vote.
Right.
For who, if there's even a government that allows vote to occur. And that's not far from our Latino experience. Mm-hmm. So that's what I say. Start with, let's be good citizens.
And it's very important to have people in positions of power, in positions of service that have that message and that live by that message.
Yes.
How is our youth doing? What are you seeing out there? And how can we, what can we do about helping our youth reach the next level and reach their American dream?
So I'm going to say that one of the things that I've seen a lot in the youth is that they're actually very much driven by service, something that fills their soul. And it's funny because I talk my generation, right? We talk about work ethic, right? I was raised on your work ethic. Get up every day.
That's
right. Get that done. And I think that the younger generation today recognizes that, there's so much more that you can do. Yes, you can pay the bills, but you can also, if animals are your thing, serving, animals or serving maybe seniors in your community or being active in your church and recognizing that makes you feel like a good person. And I think that sometimes we, the older generation, feel like, well, what's wrong with you? That's important, but you got to work. And we need to find that balance where we can bring in that youth and say, you can do all those things in public service. Everything I just talked about, law enforcement, we do just that.
Yeah.
We serve our seniors in our community. We serve our animals when we get calls for service, believe it or not. And I know everyone's seen those pictures of, a cat stuck up in a tree.
Right.
Public service, first responders going to help. And I say that because I think sometimes we put those things at odds with each other. They're not. They're not at odds. Actually, I think that we, the older generation, need to acknowledge that they just see it differently.
Yeah.
They want that first. And think about that. They want service first over that 24-hour-a-day job. That doesn't mean that it's wrong.
Right.
Let's give them what they want, and we can find that. Maybe there's also something that we can learn, right? Because sometimes when we work so hard, you don't take time for yourself, and you don't take time for your family where you should. you know, and maybe we can learn a little bit from them in that.
Yeah. And I think youth needs a little bit more hope.
That's a good point.
Need hope today. And I think we're the ones that need to give them that hope.
Yeah.
There are studies that say that the youth feels like they want to achieve their American dream.
Yeah.
And they feel very negatively about government institutions and things like that. And I think it's up to us, right?
Yeah.
It's up to us to be positive about the future and positive about the country. You mentioned the long hours, and you know, career women always have long hours. But even if you don't have, you know, a job as demanding as you, right? I think parents struggle, right? How are you balancing that, Sheriff?
I don't know.
Tell me.
I don't know if the word balance really applies. I'm going to call it, I prioritize.
Yeah.
I try to prioritize, you know, what I need to prioritize in that moment. And I'll tell you a short, brief story.
Yes.
Just, you know, so I work long hours. Yes, I do. My son, my husband and I is 17 years old now. And he'll often will text me like, Mom, when are you coming home? You know? And so I get home like, I'm tired. And I think, I just want to go to bed.
And what's for dinner? Can I have Chick-fil-A?
Oh, yeah, yes.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah, DoorDash, please.
Yes.
But he'll be waiting up for me.
He'll be waiting up for you.
And so in that moment, I have to prioritize.
Yes.
I have to tell myself I'm going to spend a little time with my son who waited up for me. And I think that's what I try to do. Just prioritize and build in some time. You know, we overachievers and hard workers can plan for everything, right? We can, have a meeting at this time. I have to travel to this. So I do that with my personal time.
That's true.
I will put in the calendar, we are going to spend a day together. I don't care if we do nothing, but I'm sitting at home, but it goes on the calendar and that helps me to keep some kind of normalcy.
And it's quality over quantity too, right?
Yes, it is. Absolutely. And be present.
You have to be present.
You have to be present.
Can't be scrolling on your phone.
Correct. Oh, and believe it or not, I'm a big believer in sitting down for a meal together. I don't care if it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It used to always be dinner, but now with my schedule, sometimes it is breakfast, and that's okay. But so dinner, like today, I got up this morning and I made dinner so that whenever I get home, even if I'm a little on the later side, it's ready and I can just plate it up and we're spending, 20 minutes at a table having a conversation.
Well, it's good. It's good to know that our sheriff is on call all the time and present and doesn't rest, but that still takes a little bit of time for her family, which is really important. And public service does run in your family. You guys are family of blue bloods.
We are.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So my husband of almost 20 years now. He's now retired, but he was also on the job. He spent 35 years on the job, and he and his canine Max, also a bomb dog on the job. They retired together. My father-in-law did 33 years as a sergeant in this county for Miami-Dade, then police department. So we are, a lot of law enforcement in our home. Well,
God bless you, and maybe your son, your boy will follow suit, huh?
I don't know. He won't tell me. I don't know if it's because he already knows it. He just doesn't want me to say anything about it. But, he's prepping out to head off to college next year. So I'm excited for him. Whatever he wants to do, I'll be supportive.
Well, he's got a wonderful example. He's very proud of his mom. Yeah. I'm sure he is.
He is. It's funny because I never really shared much with me directly, but, I'd have parent-teacher conferences, and then the teachers would tell me, and I'd be like, my son is talking about me in class. They're like, oh yeah, he's so proud of you.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, they're so coy about it.
Yes. Yes.
Well, one of the things that we like to do here is we want to find out what people's meals or drinks or desserts, something that reminds you of home and who did it best, who cooked it best. What is a meal that reminds you of your country and of home, of familia?
Hands down, mangú, queso frito, huevo frito.
Okay.
And I like it with a little bit of onions on it. My sister didn't, so my mom would have to separate the two portions, But yeah, and I have to tell you that is one of the things that I have paid forward. Like if you tell my son mangú, he's there for sure.
Family recipes.
Yes.
So why does that remind you of home?
Oh, it's a traditional Dominican dish, and it's funny because it's allegedly a breakfast, but we used to eat it at dinner too. So I don't know. In our house, it was a meal that was it was good any time of day.
Well, that's wonderful. Sheriff, thank you so much for sharing your story. You're such an inspiration, and it's an honor to have you here on the set of Sabor of Freedom. And I can't wait to see all the wonderful things that you're going to do for the citizens of Miami-Dade County and beyond.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You never know. Many blessings to you.
Thank you.
Thanks again.